Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me. Today we're going to brine jackfruit for vegan chicken and dumplings. So I'm using a collapsible strainer, and I suggest you do 1 can at a time. This is how the jackfruit looks. It's triangular and it has a seed in the middle. You can eat the seed. So now I want to get that briny taste off of the jackfruit. And even though it's in water, it still has you can taste a funny taste. It does have sulfites in it. So if you have a sensitivity to sulfites, you may not be able to use jackfruit as a substitute. Just rinse it really well. So now I'm using the collapsible strainer to try to squeeze out the water. Like I said, I suggest you use 1 can at a time for straining and rinsing, so you won't have to put it back in the can like I had to. I did that off camera. So now I'm just squeezing the water out of the jackfruit, and I'm getting a few more out of the can, trying to apply more pressure to get all of the water out because it didn't feel like I had enough in there, if that makes sense. And so now that's the 2nd can. And that fit. So now I'm just squeezing it out. So if you use 2 cans, you probably have to do about 3 squeezes. That way you have broken the 2 cans up into thirds. I'm just squeezing the water out, and voila. So now we're going to use the celery tops. I've already rinsed and cleaned off the celery. We're going to use the celery tops as part of the brine. So the brine consists of 6 cups of water, chopped celery tops, sage, fresh sage, and fresh thyme. If you don't have the fresh, you can use dried. You just want to let this sit. If you use dried, then you most definitely want to let it sit for 24 hours. But this is a quick brine. This is going to brine for at least 8 hours. So now I'm just chopping up the leaves and the celery. And my chopping technique is the same for basically all vegetables. I like to, of course, clean the vegetables and then stack the vegetables together. If I have to slice the pieces into thin strips or thin slices, so when I chop, I'll have mostly uniform pieces, then that's what I like to do. So I had a couple of bunches of green onions. I just thought I would throw these in there. Cut the bottom roots off of the green onion, stack, and then thinly slice. I'm using a cleaver, and we're just going to thinly slice the green onions up to halfway through the green parts. Now, depending on what I'm making, I will use the entire green onion, but I'm only going to use half up to half of the green part for this recipe. So just pop that into the 6 cups of water. And the jackfruit is in there already. So now I have some fresh sage that I love to use fresh sage. I hope to have a herb garden in my yard one day. That's what I want. And so you want to stack the sage on top of each other, because once stacked, we'll then roll them and then start to slice. So we'll get a nice thin slice on the sage. I believe it's called a chiffonade in French cooking. So now I'm just rolling those together and just thinly slicing with my cleaver. And then you could, after you slice, you could go over again with another rough chop. But I didn't do that. I just sliced it. Just take your time. Be gentle. And then there you have it. So pop that into the brine. And what makes it a brine is the sugar and salt. So this is some fresh thyme that I'm using. And when you use fresh thyme, what you want to do is take off the stems. If some of the bark gets in there, you want to take off the leaves. You want to take off the leaves, and if some of the stem gets into the brine, it's not a big deal. I mean, I'm sure the stem has great flavor. And the way to remove thyme is to stand it up straight with the leaves pointing up, and then you pull down into the opposite direction. That's the easiest way to get the leaves off of the thyme. And so now at this point, you only have a few more ingredients to add. You will add the 1/4 cup of agave. Now you can use up to 1/2 cup, but since I'm working out now, I'm only going to use a 1/4 cup of agave and 1/8 of a cup of no salt substitute. Now you can use regular salt if you like, but I'm using a no salt, and I'm only going to use about 1/8 of a cup. And now I'm just stirring it up to get the remaining salt and the agave off of the measuring spoon. Just trying to create as little dishes as possible, because when you cook your own food, your kitchen can get messy. So I have to taste it, and it's not really salty, so that's just what I want. And it has some good flavor to it already, I can tell. And just to top it off, I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of smoked sea salt. And then that's it, stir it up, put a lid on it, and put it in the refrigerator to brine for at least 8 hours. If you use fresh herbs, I would go maybe like 16 hours. If you use dried herbs, I would go maybe like 16 hours. And again, I'm adding 1/8 of a teaspoon of smoked sea salt. And now she's good to go for real, y'all. She's done. She's dressed up. The jackfruit is dressed up for tomorrow. So I'll see you all tomorrow on the Facebook Live cooking class. Thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, click, and share, and let's get healthy together. I have so many great recipes planned, and I want to share them with everyone as I embark on my journey to veganism. Please join me. I love to have you. So again, remember, always brine your jackfruit before cooking. It would just make your recipe taste so much better. And there's so many things that you can do with it, and I can't wait to share them all with you using all natural ingredients. See you tomorrow on Facebook Live.